Okay, so we are continuing on in the Sefer mitzvos in preparation for Hilchos Yesodei Torah Perek Chamishi. So yesterday we did the Sefer mitzvos in mitzvos Taaseh, mitzvah test, which is kidush Hashem, and Rambam basically said it is to publicize the religion of truth, the religion of reality, in public. You know, I don't think I mentioned this yesterday, that yesterday I said Lafarsim das emes hazo barabim, and then we looked at barab. We asked the question of, is this specifically in public? And we looked at the translation or the Arabic of barabim, and then Kafach had said it means ba'olam, or you could translate it as ba'olam. But I'm realizing now that like Lafarsim das emes hazo barabim, if you say barabim, it just means like in public, then it's a little redundant. I mean, I know you could say Lafarsim, you could be in Lafarsim to one person, but I don't know, like it's mashma to me that he does put the emphasis on like public, and the Hananiah, Mishan, Azariah, and Ma'amad, you know, what do you call it? The Ma'amad Atum, that sounds like really the essence is a public thing. So I don't know, I just noticed that now. Anyway, so he says that it's to publicize the true religion, and if we and not allow ourselves to be intimidated by any harm that could come to us, by people who want us to demonstrate denial of it, and that we should be willing to give up our lives on it, like Hananiah, Mishan, Azariah did. And if we don't do this, then this is a disgrace to Klal Yisrael. And Yeshayahu says there will always be youths who are willing to do this. So that was the first chunk, and then he goes into the fact that God took us out of Mitzrayim to be Makadesh Shem Shemayim Barabim. So we didn't know why. Yeah.
Sorry. Why does he specify youths? Like, why does he say there will always be youth?
So I imagine he is getting that from, hold on. Yeah, I'm assuming he's getting that from the pasuk in Yeshayahu. So it's really more of a question on Yeshayahu, because Yeshayahu says, "Hu amru lo ata yevosh Yaakov lo ata panav yechavaro kibir oso yeladav maaseh yadai bekirbo yakdishu shmi v'hikdishu es kadosh Yaakov ezal Yisrael yaritu." So I assume he's getting from yeladav, his children, you know, and not children like Banav, because that could be adult children, but Yeladav, like his young children. So I'm guessing he's learning that that's the nevuah. Should we take a look at the nevuah really quickly? I don't know how, I haven't looked at it in depth. Let's just see. Yeshayahu, let me stop sharing this. Share the screen. Yeshayahu. Oops. Go. Okay, Yeshayahu, Chavtes, yeah, oh good, so it's a paragraph. I think this is it. Yeah. Lachain, Kol Amar Ad Hashem El Beis Yaakov Asher Pada Es Avraham. So therefore, thus said Hashem to the house of Jacob, who redeemed Abraham, Lo ata yevosh Yaakov, lo ata panav yechavaro. Not now will your face, will you be ashamed, Yaakov, and not now will your face blanch. I always figured yechavaro means turn white or turn black. I forgot. Chav Gimel, ki bir'osa yeladav maaseh yadai, because when he sees his children, the work of my hands, bekirbo, in his midst, yakdishu shemi, v'hikdishu es kadosh Yaakov. You know, I just want to say the English here. I'm getting confused with the pronouns because we're talking about Abraham and we're talking about God. Okay, therefore, thus said the Lord, who redeemed Abraham concerning the house of Jacob. Jacob shall not now be ashamed, neither shall his face now wax pale. So they say it's white. So I assume this is Yaakov. When Yaakov sees his children, the work of my hands, and that's Hashem, in the midst of him, I don't know who the him is, that they sanctify my name, that's Hashem. Yea, they shall sanctify the Holy One of Jacob, and shall stand in awe of the God of Israel. They also that err in spirit shall come to understanding. That's v'yadu toe ruach bina, v'rognim yilmedu lekach. And rognim are the murmurers will learn teaching. So let's just look at the Radak just to get basics here. Okay, lachain, therefore, El Beis Yaakov asher pada es Avraham, to the house of Jacob that Abraham redeemed. Pirush pasuk, Kain Hashem asher pada es Abraham Amar El Beis Yaakov shelo yevosh Yaakov. So basically, it's invoking God. The Navi's invoking God as the one who redeemed Abraham. He's saying so too he will be the one who will redeem Beis Yaakov, that they shouldn't be ashamed. But inyan, and the idea, ki kulam b'nei Yaakov, all of them are bnei Yaakov. Kasher yesh bahem anashim rashayim, and when there are evil men among them, har Yaakov avihem ilu bosh mimaseim. So it's as if Yaakov, their father, is ashamed of their actions. Ilu hayachai, if he were alive. Ka'adam shehu tzadik shiyatza beno latarbus ra. Just like a tzadik whose son goes off into a bad crowd, that he's ashamed and v'nechlam mimasav, humiliated by his actions. Okay, fine. V'tam asher pada es Avraham, ki k'mosh haya Avraham Avinu dar ben Rashayim, upada Hashem oso miyadam, is that just like Avraham Avinu lived among Rashayim and God redeemed him from their hand, v'hotziu me'artzam, and he hotzio me'artzam, and he removed Avraham from their land. Ken hayu ha'anavim shezach lamala ben Rashayim. So too were the humble people above who were among the Rashayim. Lo haya biadam yicholas lahachzik b'darchei Hashem b'far hesia. So there's another emphasis on public. They did not have the ability to cling to the ways of Hashem in public. Amar, he said, Ata yabos man, now there will come a time, b'zehu b'mei Chizkiyahu, she'achziku b'gilui b'galui b'darchei Hashem. So in the time of Chizkiyahu, then they will be able to cling to the ways of Hashem publicly. So this is not I kind of just assumed that this was a prophecy for Yemos Mashiach, but it looks like Radak at least is learning it as prophecy for the time of Yeshayahu. All right, so now let's see what he goes on. The Hikdishu Kadosh Yaakov, they will sanctify the Holy One of Jacob. The Him Yikru Beis Yaakov, the Emes, they will truly be called the Beis Yaakov. Below Yevosh, see, really Beis Yaakov should be the name of the yeshiva, not just a seminary. Below Yevosh Yaakov Mimasehem, and Yaakov will not be ashamed of their actions. Ela Yismach Mimase Yeladav, Bimei Chizkiyahu. He will rejoice in the work of, in the actions of his children in the days of Chizkiyahu. Shiashuva l'derech tova. They will return to the good path. Yichalu, I don't know how to read that. Harashayim b'milchamos, and the Rashayim will perish in wars. Shekadmu, that came before. V'osam yisharu mihem, and those who remain from them, shalamdu mimaseim, who learn from their actions. Meaning they too will perish. V'lo hayu Rashayim kahem, osam shahayu toy ruach, the Ra'im Yashuva l'derech tova. So then the ones who were not Rashayim, but were just errors, people who erred, they will do tshuva and return to the good path. Lo yivosh Yaakov same ilo hayachai, and he would not have been ashamed of their actions if he were alive. Okay, fine. Panav yechevaru yislabnu, they'll turn white. Okay, mitargmo laban chibar v'habosh yislabnu panav v'chein b'divrei chazal hamav b'nei chaver b'rav. Okay, fine. All right, this is the part we really wanted to get to. Kibir oso. פירוש, בירוס יעקב ילדיו, שהם ילדיו ובניו באמס בלכתם בדרך הטובה ובירוסו ממעשה ידיו בקרבו. So when Yaakov sees his children, who are his children in truth, who follow his good path, when he sees the work of their hands, b'kirbo, in their midst, in his midst, v'hu mash esed b'machane Ashur, habab arzo ubiroso ki yakdishu yiladav shmi al hanes hagadol. That's a different path than I took. So when he sees what I will do in the camp, the Assyrian camp, when Assyria comes into his land, and when he sees that his children will sanctify my name with over the great miracles. So this is the miracle of God exterminating the Assyrian army. I don't know what Kiddush Hashem that has to do with anything, what that has to do with Kiddush Hashem. Let's see. V'hikdishu es Kadosh Yaakov, sheyomru b'hikdisham shemo Kadosh Yaakov, v'elkei Yisrael shu avihem, az lo yevosh Yaakov aval yismach. So when they say in their sanctification of his name, Kadosh Yaakov, and the God of Israel, who is their father, then Yaakov will not be ashamed, aval yismach, but he'll rejoice. B'chol zeh derech mashal, k'mosh pirashnu. What? All this is a mashal, as we explained. We explained that this is mashal. It's not like he was talking literally up until now. Uperush yaritu, what does it mean that they will fear? Yitnu lo b'tehilasam hakoach v'hama'aratza shehikam b'machane Ashur b'layla mea u'shmonim v'chamisha elef. So they will give him in their praise the power and the intimidating strength, ma'arza, I guess, that he struck the camp of Assyria at night. 185,000 people, soldiers. This is God killing the Assyrian camp. And their power was not able to help them. And their power with all of their wealth. So this is really relevant, right? Because we're saying part of Kiddush Hashem is recognizing that no one you shouldn't be afraid of anyone, only of Hashem, and that they don't really have the power to harm you. So this was a demonstration of that when God killed the entire Assyrian army of 185,000 at night miraculously, and demonstrated that all of their power was really nothing. Okay, fine. Umasha samach kidushas hakel liakov b'chol makom lo asakain l'shar ha'avos kamosh amar kadosh Yaakov amar ki korma Hashem tzvakos kadosh Yisrael avir Yaakov amar kadosh Yisrael Moshiacha amar ga'alcha kadosh Yisrael amar kadosh Yisrael v'yotzro amar go'el Yisrael kadosho. Okay, fine. So the question is, why does God link his kedusha to Yaakov, and he doesn't do that for any of the other avos? V'alfa pi, v'alfa pi shemiktsasam yesh lefaresh al Klal Yisrael. Some of them you could definitely say about the entirety of Klal Yisrael, not about Yisrael Avihem. Mikol makom yesh behem she'ein lahem derech lefarsham ela al Yaakov atzmo. A lot of them you can only explain about Yaakov. Amar zeh lefi sheYaakov ra'a kedushas hakel b'marei hanevua b'malchazeh sulam mutzav arza v'rosham magia hashmayno. So it's because Yaakov's nevuah of the ladder that was on earth and the top was in the heaven was seeing the kedushas hakel. Okay. So that's interesting. So what the main thing I got from here, I don't know, tell me what you got, is that that this is, let me go back to the Sefer Mitzvos, that this is a, what do you call it? This is in line with the theme of not being afraid of anyone else, and that God has the true power. So what this does for me is we noted this yesterday, but even though the Rambam mentions Avas Hashem, Yiras Hashem does seem to be a part of this, meaning that your Avas Hashem is so strong, or you're so dedicated to Avas Hashem, that you're not Yare from things that would ordinarily be mafchid. And that's the relationship there. So it doesn't answer your questions about about Bachurim. And in fact, it really refutes what I said, because I said Bachurim is from the Pasuk, because I thought Yeladav meant like young children, but it's using this mashal of Yaakov's children, So I don't know why he says Bachurim, unless the Rambam's learning it that way.
Well, I guess it could have. Oh man, I hear myself. That's weird.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. It could have said like Banav Shel Yaakov or something.
Right.
So I guess the fact that it said like Nurav or whatever it said.
Yeah, Yeladav.
Yeah. So that
your
point still stands, I guess.
Yeah, you could say that. I'm just less confident in it now because I guess once I saw that Yeladav was a reference, because I thought Yeladav was God's Yeladim, and then I was thinking that you could have more leeway in saying that that's referring to specifically young Israelites, but the fact that it's using the mashal of Yaakov as if he were alive looking out for his kids, I feel like it's more open to an interpretation that is not Davka young, but yeah, it could be the Rambam's learning it that way. Okay, so then we had God took us out of Mitzrayim for this, and then we had the justification that this is a mitzvah, which we get from the Gemara, which we needed to bring in the Gemara because the pasuk makes it sound like a tam ha-mitzvah, or an outcome of the mitzvah, not a tzivui. All right, so that's a review of yesterday. Any other things before we go on to Chilul Hashem? Alrighty, so Chilul Hashem, this is in Samch Gimel, in Los Ases. The mitzvah hashalosh v'shishim ha'azhara shehuzharno al Chilul Hashem. The 63rd mitzvah is the prohibition against desecration of the name, and I should just mention this because it's easy to forget. Chilul means treating it as chol, and it's the opposite of kodesh. And same thing with English is desecrating, is making it not sacred or treating it as not sacred. So so we have to keep that in mind when we're trying to understand the Shem HaMitzvah, that the effect of this mitzvah, just like the effect of the mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem, is to make the Shem Hashem unique, to highlight its transcendence and its uniqueness, meaning the idea of Hashem or his actions. So to Chilul Hashem is when you treat it as ordinary or as non-transcendent. All right, so let's see. V'hu hefech Kiddush Hashem. This is the opposite of Kiddush Hashem, in which we are commanded, as we have explained in the 9th of the mitzvah today. So if we just stopped here, what would you say if we didn't read on? If you said that strictly speaking, Kiddush Hashem is just the opposite of Chilul Hashem, what would you say violation of Chilul Hashem looks like? based on his definition of kidush Hashem?
Well, it would seem like it has to be in person. I mean, not in person, sorry, in public. That's what I mean.
In public, right.
Sorry.
Yeah, seems like it'd have to be in public. And then what would have to happen? Like, what would be the Maaseh HaIsser? Or the Tzur,
I guess
Yeah.
Not doing a Kiddush Hashem when you could have.
And and the Kiddush Hashem being?
Oh, actually forgot. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Because he didn't specify it so much. I mean, he did say it. Let's just go back really quickly.
Not giving in.
Yeah, right. So the Kiddush Hashem is not giving in. I think he stated it most clearly at the beginning. Shelo nira bekach mehezek shu mazig ad she'afilu yavo lanu anas aretz v'yikro so lachbor bo yis'ala lo nishmelo. Okay, so even when an intimidating person calls us to deny God, we don't listen to him. Ela nimsor atmenu lamus behechleit. We give ourselves over to death. So it would seem like if you were in that situation and an intimidating person called upon you to deny God and you didn't give yourself over to death, that would be a chilul Hashem. Okay, so just failure to give yourself over to death. So let's see if that holds up in the halachos. And I'm saying that genuinely because I don't remember the way the Rambam formulates it. Okay, he says like this now. And this is his statement, you shall not desecrate my holy name. Okay. This iniquity is divided into three categories. Very interesting. 2 on the general populace and 1 on individuals. I don't know what that means. Let's look at footnote 33. Okay, fine. So I guess I'll explain. He's just explaining where he got the lashon from. Okay. Hachelik haklali harishan. The first category that's on the general. Shekol mishi darshu mimenu lavor al achas min mitzvos b'shas hashmad. Okay, very specific already. Is that anyone who seeks from him, from a Jew, to transgress one of the mitzvos at a time of persecution, v'haya ha'anas mischaven laha'avir. And the intent of the coercer is to make him transgress. Bein b'mitzvos kalos, bein b'mitzvos chamuros, whether it is on light mitzvos or stringent mitzvos. And I assume here he's using the same definitions that he gave in Hilchos Tshuva Perek Aleph, which is that the chamuros are ones that are chayav misa or kares, and then the kalos are the ones that are not. O mishadarshu mimenu lavor al avoda zara, o gilui arayos, o shvichos damim. Okay, there we go. Or someone who seeks to make him transgress avodah zarah or gilui arayos, and in gilui arayos, avodah zarah is not just the ma'aseh avodah zarah; it's presumably any lo saseh of avodah zarah. I mean, I guess we'll have to see this when we look at the halachos. And gilui arayos is not any sexual prohibition; it's specifically the ones that are chayav kares in acharemos. O shvichos damim, or bloodshed, and this is I'm not sure about because we differentiate between ritzicha and shvichos damim. And shvichos damim in Hilchos Ritzicha, Hilchos Ritzeach, or Shmiras Nefesh is like not just a direct act of murder, but even like manslaughter or any form of thing that brings about someone's death. Vafilu shelo b'shas hashmad, even not at a time of persecution. Harizeh chayav limsor nafsho v'hareg v'lo yavor. So then that person is obligated to give over his life and to be killed and to not transgress. Like we explained in the 9th of the mitzvah. So that's category 1. V'im avar v'lo neharag harizeh chilul es Hashem. And if he transgressed and did not allow himself to be killed, so then he desecrated the name of Avar Alav and transgressed this law. So that fits in with what we just said. But this distinction was not present in the or at least it wasn't clear in the mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem, because in Kiddush Hashem he did not distinguish between different types of avonos. It just seemed like, in fact, he put it in theological terms, right? He said lachpor. Where is it? Shekafarnu, lachpor bo yisale, and then shekafarnu, and he mentioned emuna, and al ahavaso, the ha'emuna ba'achduso. So that's a striking difference. I mean, Here he's putting it in terms of individual averos in Chilul Hashem, but then in Kiddush Hashem he did it in terms of like the chavos halavovos or the values or the ideas. Weird. Okay.
Maybe it's like I'd say the idealized form of the mitzvah and of the iyur.
Right. Definitely sounds like that for the Kiddush Hashem thing, that it's the idealized form about like what is it that you are demonstrating. In terms of the idealized form of the iyur, what do you mean?
I think idealized is actually maybe the wrong word, but I'd say what I mean is that in terms of the iyur, I'd say there's like the mitzvah and the like philosophical aspects of it. Or like I'd say there's the technical and the philosophical aspects.
Yeah.
Kidush Hashem is like fulfilling Kidush Hashem is I'd say in the paradigmatic way.
Yeah.
Is expressing the philosophical ideas.
Okay, good.
And here and I'd say the violation of this in the paradigmatic way is not just the fact that you're not expressing the philosophical ideas, is that you're not even doing the technical halachic structure.
Okay, right. So I think maybe I don't know if these are the terms you're looking for, or if this is just a different way of saying it, or a different way of thinking about it. But like, it does sound like when it comes to Chilul Hashem, there is there's definitely an act of iyur, namely doing the avera. But then Kiddush Hashem, there's beyond just not doing Chilul Hashem, there is a kiyum of the mitzvah. The kiyum of the mitzvah is more than just giving up your life. The kiyum of the mitzvah is a demonstration of your emunah and your avas Hashem, and you're not letting him think that you are denying him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, maybe it could be formulated more precisely. But yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Yes, Zeph?
No, I was just gonna say, is that's what Kiddush Hashem is?
That sounds like that sounds like the way he's putting it in Kiddush Hashem, right? Is that I just want to read it one more time just to make sure I'm not projecting. Sorry. Inyan mitzvah anu mitzuvim lefarsim das ha'emes hazo barabim. V'shalom nira b'kach mehezek shumazik ad shafilu yavolana anas aretz v'yikra osana lachbor boyis ala v'lo nishmalo ela nimsar tzmei lemus behechlet v'lo nasan lo lachsho shekafarnu af shalibenu ma'amin boyis ale. So that part is definitely not like, that's beyond the halacha, right? That sounds like a kiyum. The kiyum is that we don't let him think that we deny God, and that we do let him think that our heart is ma'amin bo yis'aleh, and zohi mitzvahs kiddush Hashem shenitzavinu ba'kol Yisrael, klomar shenimsor atmeinu lemisa b'dei haaretz al ahavaso yis'aleh v'ha'emuna ba'achduso. So that's like a kiyum of kiddush Hashem that goes beyond like the practical halacha, and then with the Chilul Hashem, sounds like you're doing both. When you violate the practical halacha, you're also allowing space for him to think that you're denying God. Yeah.
It's also interesting that he hasn't mentioned Taaseh yet here.
Right. True. That's a good point. Yeah. Okay. So this is the first claw. Let's see the second one. I think that's the second one. Or maybe this is still the first one. If this matter were in public, okay, so finally he defines what he means by public, is in a situation of 10 Jews, which I always think, by the way, is very interesting, that we talked about in the popular notion of Kiddush Hashem and Chilul Hashem, then it's like for the non-Jews, but our measure in the actual halacha of Kiddush Hashem and Chilul Hashem is in terms of a minyan of Yisrael. Harizeh Chilul es Hashem barabim. So then he has desecrated the name in public. So this is interesting now. Because here he says, and he violated lo sachalu Hashem kodshi. See, but before he didn't say that. I mean, it sounds like I'm being medoctic here, but I think I'm doing that because of what he says in the Mishnah Torah. He says, so if you look at after footnote 34, im avar velo neharag, hare zeh chilul es Hashem, ve'avar alav zeh. But then here he says, hare zeh chilul es Hashem barabim, ve'avar al amro yis'ale lo sachalu Hashem kodshi. So, I mean, question is, why doesn't he quote the pasuk the first time? Sounds like a lesser violation, but if you don't believe me, then that's fine, because I think he says it more explicitly in the Mishnah Torah. Yeah, well, let's finish the sentence. Avonu chamor ma'od, and his iniquity is very very severe. Aval eno sofeg malchus mipnei shehu anus, but he doesn't get whiplashes because it was coerced. Lefisha ein lebeistin livtsoa onesh malchus omisa ella al mezid beraton be'edim v'hasra, because what do you call it? Beis cannot execute a punishment, or cannot carry out a punishment of malchus or misa unless it is intentional and voluntary with witnesses and warning. So one thing that's very interesting about this also, and by the way, I assume, even though it's not clear from here, I assume that refers not just to when it's in public. I assume that also refers to when it's when he's by himself. What do you call it? But what's interesting here is it is still a chilul Hashem. It's just not, it is considered ones. So you see from here very clearly, by the way, that chilul Hashem is a real world effect, not just a halakhic reality. Because generally speaking, we say that if something is ones, then it's like not, in a sense, it's not even an avera. I mean, we obviously have to speak of you being over ones, but like it's not considered an avera. But here it's ones and it's a chilul Hashem, and he's violating this law, or maybe I just don't know how we use the term ones. But let's say, for example, let's use the classic case of ones. If someone gets raped, we don't say that the rape victim committed we say that they committed an avera ones, but we don't really say that we don't treat that like an avera. Let's say like in the Rambam in Hilchos Yesodei, when he's talking about doing tshuva, he says bein bezadam bein bishgaga. You don't have to do according to the Rambam, you don't have to do tshuva on ones. And I know we say in al chetz shekatan lepnecha ba'ones uveratzon, but it's a question on the veto. It's not a question on the Rambam's formulation. Okay, fine. V'lashon Sifra v'nosin mizar lemolech v'nasati ani es panai ba'ishahu. So it says in Sifra that regarding Molech, was someone who offers his offspring to Molech, Hashem says, I will set my face upon that man. Amru hahu lo anus v'lo shogeg v'lo mut'a. So when it says hahu, that implies not anus, not coerced, lo shogeg, not unintentional, v'lo mut'a, and not erroneous. Like, let's say you accidentally, you thought you were putting your own kids through molech, but you accidentally grabbed your neighbor's kids. I guess that would be mut. Or I don't know if that's shogeg or muta. Or maybe you didn't think it was molech. Maybe you thought it was like a, a barcode, grocery situation. Oh, so this it might be the first time he's talking about ones in the Sefer mitzvahs, because it sounds like he's going on a little detour here. So you see from here that someone who's ovid avodah zara ba'ones is not chayav kares, koshkin misa b'dei shemayim, and all the more so you're not chayav misa b'dei shemayim. Well, avar al chilul Hashem, but he has transgressed chilul Hashem.
Wait, it says misa based in.
Oh, sorry, misa's based in. Sorry, yeah, you're right. Misa's based in. Avar al chilul Hashem. So that's supporting what I was saying, is that if you're over ba'ones, you cannot be punished, but you did commit the avon of chilul Hashem. I don't know why he's saying that sounds like he's saying that the guy who worshipped avodah zara is avar al chilul Hashem, right? I'm a little perplexed by that. I know Molech is avodah zara, but since when do we see that being over avodah zara is being over al chilul Hashem? Maybe I'm just misunderstanding that.
Well, I think he's saying kol shekain to our case, maybe, about doing it before Hesya.
I'd like to think that, but the sentence doesn't. Oh yeah, I can see that. The kol shekain go on both of them. Kol shekain misas based in. That's about that case, and kol shekain one who is over al chilul Hashem. Yeah, I can buy that. Yeah, Isaac?
I thought this was a case where a person is doing avodah zara because they're being coerced to.
I don't think so, because I think the pasuk is just talking about the straight up case of molech. And he's using that to demonstrate that if you, he's using that and the drasha of hahu to show you that you're not chayav kares.
Isn't you're not chayav a punishment when you do something be'ones?
Yeah.
And then now he's saying, since this is ones,
yeah,
since you're doing avodah zarah be'ones, you're not chayav kares, you're not chayav mitzvah based in.
And then now he's connecting it to our case. Sorry. He's not connecting it to our case.
I'm saying this is all
Chilul Hashem, right? Meaning that the only thing that we learn from Moloch is that ones removes kares and mitzvahs basing, but it does not remove the avon of Chilul Hashem.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. The chelik hasheni shagam hu klali. So the second chelik, which is also klali. I'm still not clear on how he's using the word klali here, but we'll see. Shiaseh adam avera she'en ba taiva v'lo hana'a. Okay. So this is the weird case that a person does an avera in which there is no taiva and no pleasure. Ela mare b'masav hazilzu hefkerus. Rather, he demonstrates through his actions degradation and a casting off of the yoke, ownerlessness. Okay, harigam ze mechal shem shemayim v'sofik malchus. So that also is considered to be a chilul shem shemayim, and he gets malchus. Okay, so that's interesting. So if you do an avera, I don't mean an avera lishma. That's a wrong term because that's a real category. If you do an avera, what we call lahachis, he's not using the term lahachis, but like just as a demonstration of rebellion, like for pesha. So then that's a chilul Hashem, and you get malchus. And what's interesting about that is you didn't get malchus in the earlier case because it was ones, I guess. And here, I mean, what sounds like he's saying any avera would qualify, but you have to assume that you only get malchus if it's an avera that has a maisa to it. Right? If I sit here and I go lo yelacha, and I violate something that doesn't have a maisa, I assume I can't get malchus on that.
So we need to go testify in front of Beis Din that.
No, we have it on tape. Yeah. Ulefikach amar v'lo tishavu b'shmi l'sheker v'chilalta es shem elokacha. Lefisha zeh mari al hazilzu b'tzivui hazeh vein hana gufanis bakach. That's interesting. So that's why it juxtaposes swearing, taking an oath falsely in God's name, and chilul Hashem, because that demonstrates a degradation in the tzivui, and there's no bodily hana. So he does clarify it's bodily hana here. So that is interesting, right? I guess he means that literally, that if you, that's strange. I mean, it sounds like he's saying that if you take a shavua sheker in God's name, that is automatically a chilul Hashem, because it's being mezalzel without hana gufanis. But from his earlier description, it doesn't sound like it. His earlier description sounds like, well, I mean, maybe I'm just reading into it because he says mare b'masav hazils v'hafkaros. I treat it as like a defiant act, whereas I don't think it's fair to say that anyone who swears falsely in God's name is doing a demonstrative act of defiance. Like maybe you swear falsely because you don't want to get in trouble or something like that. So I'm not sure how universal this is. Okay, so let's do the last category. The component that's on yechidim. Adam. Oh, now I know what he means by yechidim and klali. Okay, fine. I'll explain later. So this is if a person who is yadua b'chasidus uviyosher maaseh, who is known for piety and uprightness of action, if he does shiaseh maaseh masuyam hanire lahamon shehu avera, he does a specific action that is known to the masses. Sorry, that appears to the masses as though it is an avera. Ushekagon maaseh zeh eno roy l'kmo oso chasid lasoso. That, for example, this action is not befitting for someone who is like this chassid to do. The ava pishu maaseh hamutar, even though it's totally mutar, harzeh chilul es Hashem. So then this is considered to be a desecration of the name. V'hu amram, this is what Chazal say, hechi dami, chilul Hashem. What is an example of chilul Hashem? I've never seen dummy spelled with an aleph. Kagon ana de shakilna bisra mi beit tabcha. Like if I buy a piece of meat from the butcher, v'lo yahavina dami la'altar, and I don't pay immediately. meaning like you kind of force the butcher to go like collect from you. So it's mutter, but it's not proper to delay payment to someone who you're buying services from. Rabbi Ploni Amar Kagon Ana. So Rabbi Ploni said another example about himself. Ana dimazgina arba amos below Torah below tefillin. Yikes! If I walk 4 amos without Torah and tefillin, okay, I don't know what he means by without Torah. I think he means holding a Sefer Torah. Yeah, so I think he's proving from here, by the way, that it's on Yechid. So by the Klali thing, he meant that the Klali things apply to every member of Klal Yisrael, but the Yechidim thing only applies in terms of your individual stature. And then that's why the examples in the Gemara are Anna, that for me, it would be this. For me, it would be that. This law was repeated, and it said, "Do not desecrate the name of your God. I am Hashem." And the laws of this mitzvah were explained in Psachim and in the end of Yuma. So what's interesting about this, by the way, I think I mentioned this yesterday at the end of Kidush Hashem. Kidush Hashem also has these 2 other categories. It has the category of if you do a mitzvah lishma, not for any motive in the world, then that's considered being Makadesh Shem Shemayim. And if you are a person who's a chassid and you make everyone view you favorably through your actions, that's a Kidush Hashem, but he doesn't bring it down in the Sefer mitzvahs, which is odd.
In the Mishnah Torah, he does.
Yeah. Strange. Okay, so that is the end of the Sefer HaMitzvos on Lo Taaseh Tes. Any other questions on this Lo Taaseh? Okay, you know what? So, yeah, go ahead.
Did you have a question? It is a weird. I mean, yeah, I guess maybe he'll explain more in the Mishnah, but it is like strange, like a strange structure to have, like something that's like societally not okay to be like usher. Like it's weird. Like where's the line there?
Right, that's a good question. Yeah, right. Meaning it seems like halacha should be the baseline for halachic violations. And yes, there's a category of not going lifnei mishur sadin, and you might say that that is bad, but to say that it actually violates halacha seems to be blurring the lines between shur sadin and lifnei mishur sadin. Like miman avshach. I mean, it's not a real miman avshach, but like if failure to go lifnei mishur sadin for these people is effectively usher, so then it's shur sadin. I mean, you could say it's lifnei mishur sadin because it goes on an individual basis. I hear the question though. It definitely blurs the line. And why do we care what other people think? I mean, that's obviously we can answer that, but like that's going to be the question that has to be answered specifically. Alrighty, I think what we'll do is, since I said we're going to end 15 minutes early and we're close enough to that, and this is a good stopping point. Let's stop for today, and then tomorrow plan on starting the Mishnah Torah. Okay.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks. All right. Hopefully, I'll be on in your time zone next time we talk. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.